spinning. Okay, here we go. Now
I
we're
got a little box that's
live. We need the little video. I'm going to have to ask Jack to do some little intro video because we used to do
yeah. I have
live
an
in
intro
Ghost on the
video.
Store, Paranormal Straight Talk with blah 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 blah. But that's when we were doing it live from the Ghost Hunter store, so it doesn't make sense to say that now. Hi everybody, it's us again. Um, uh,
How come I don't see anybody here? Does that mean there's nobody here, or does it only show
it
up when
depends
they
where they're
go in
looking.
and
It
chat?
depends on where they're watching, and they have to put comments on. Um, some of it you're not going to see the numbers unless you're looking at it from the Facebook side. So because it's streaming in multiple locations. But if you put the comment section on the side, some people who are going to say stuff will pop up there. Well, anyway, I'm Dave
Actually,
Giuliano.
no, they were last.
My partner in crime, Pat Kibbe. We had a guest,
Hi.
Bianca Rose, the psychic medium. However, she's feeling under the weather, so we're going to go on without her and reschedule her. It's just a lot of that stuff going around. I was under the weather now. It's just making it cycles through everybody.
Yeah, I'm so lucky. I mean, I'm very happy that you didn't get sicker than you did. I mean, not to say you weren't sick, but I mean, people are like in the hospitals dying at this point from that. So, especially with like medical issues that are ongoing.
The one vaccine I didn't get was the RSV, and that's the thing I got. So that's me. That's exactly me.
Whatever that's that next year. Is. Remember that.
Yeah. No, I didn't get shingles either.
I told Mike to get it.
That's coming up.
I already had shingles. That was not a treat.
Yeah, I got to get that.
That was no fun at all.
Anyway, all right. So I don't know if people are watching or not, but what we were going to talk about last week when we didn't have a guest was kind of introduce ourselves. And so some of you may know us, may know of the things we're affiliated, but I think, or maybe you've just heard about us, and that's in the paranormal community. That's not necessarily a good thing, because at least 75% of the stuff you're going to hear is going to be, nonsense made up or just bad stuff all around. So, so Pat,
like that.
So Pat, tell us how you got into the paranormal.
It's how did question. I get into the paranormal? It is a horrible question. Okay. So I was in a hotel. Is that how every story starts?
You got to do a cold, rainy night. It was a cold, rainy night in this lonely hotel. All right.
No, I was in Arizona, so it wasn't cold at all. It was a hot, rainy night. And I was there. My daughter, when she was young, she did gymnastics, like I guess semi-professionally or whatever. So she used to do meets across country, and we used to travel a lot. And we stayed it was a Comfort Inn, I believe. The ones that are like orange, that orange and yellow sign, that's Comfort Inn, right? I don't know. It's one of those chain hotels, but like the lower level ones, not like a Hilton or something like that. It was like a lower level one, but it was fine. It wasn't, seedy or anything like that. There weren't like, people doing drugs in the halls, it was fine. And we had been out at night having dinner with the other families that had their kids there because we traveled as a team. And we went up to bed, and Sue fell asleep like instantly, which never happens because she used to be a ball of energy. She is now sometimes, but not like that. But she just like crashed just because there was so much activity. We did the meet, and then we did a dinner, and it was a lot for her. So we decided it was a good opportunity, Mike and I, to have a little fun. While she was sleeping over there, because we knew she wasn't getting up. Like, there's no way. So we were like fooling around, And then, of course, someone has to go to the bathroom, and it wasn't me. So, be right back, you know. So okay. So I was just like laying there, like waiting patiently. Uh, and I just like, I don't know, I was just looking around. I was just like, hanging out. And I looked to my right, and there were two entities standing directly next to the bed. Or no, they were on the end of the bed first. They were on the end of the bed first. And then I just like, I looked at them and I looked away and I was like, wait, what? And I looked again and then they were next to the bed on the right side. So it's like, holy, you know what? Um, so I did the good smart thing for protection. I put the covers over my head because that's the best protection there is, as far as I was concerned at that time. Excuse me. So I had the covers under my head and I was going, Mom! But I couldn't scream because like I was just frozen. My voice was locked up because I was just so
Mhm.
scared. And but I was trying. I was like, Mike. That's how it was coming out. Mike, Mike, But he heard me from the bathroom. So and like if there's any proof of my story, he heard me yelling something from the bathroom, but he couldn't hear what was going on. And of course, Sue was knocked out. And this, whoever he was, must have been watching. And this is why, because I'm going to assume it was male just by the nature of what they looked like and all that. But they slid a hand under, because like I was on my side, I would, with the covers over my head, my back to them. And one of them slid their hand under and it was like on my rib cage. And I went, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, So then I was in oh my God mode for a couple of minutes, but they didn't move their hand. And I was like, it's okay, it's okay. It's not really here. There's nothing really here because it's a dream. I'm imagining this. Like, this isn't real, So I'm going to put my hand there and I'm going to prove to myself this isn't real and break whatever, nightmare I'm having. So I went and I put my hand there, and there was a hand there. It was real. And I was just like, oh my God. And I got my voice back and I was like, Mike. And like, of course, at that moment, he burst through the door and then they were gone. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, I know you're not going to believe me, but so then I started doing research into what it was, what had happened. And I was talking to everybody and anybody, that's when I first met the guys from TAPS. They were doing a fundraiser for, it's an affiliation with Dave Tango and one of his charities that he supports. So, I mean, this is going way back. I think we figured out it was 2008, I think. I'm not sure. No, that's not right, is it? No, I don't know. I'd have to figure it out now. So anyway, yeah, I never saw him again. Never, thankfully. I was like, God, I hope they don't follow me home, and they didn't. But I did find someone that used to be in the paranormal. His name was Phil Imbrogno. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's an
The name
author.
sounds familiar. Yeah.
He was like a big deal in the paranormal. And then, as you know, how things happen in the paranormal, he got like shut down. People said that he didn't have the degrees he said he had, and they just like came running at him, piled on, and nobody's ever heard from him again. He got out of the industry, out of the business. He's like, nope, I'm done. So, but he had the reason I knew he knew what I was talking about because he said, yeah, I know what you're talking about. The only question I have for you, because like I've heard of them already, is did they have like black or white eyes? And I was like, oh, that's a good question. So my answer is they were black, like skin, but like white eyes, I think.
Hmm.
Like they were that, black to them. Not they weren't all black, but you know. So that's how I got here. I kept going and going. I went to college. I took paranormal courses in college. I wanted once I'm interested in something, I like to learn everything I can about it because like that's how you can make your own real opinions about it once you have all the information. And I love that the UFO people are making traction now with the government, and they're really moving forward with trying to get the documents released for things like that. I didn't see a UFO. That wasn't my experience, but I'm sure these other people did, especially they have footage. Like, come on. But, whatever. That's government for you. But yeah, so that's how I got into the paranormal.
I never heard that story before.
I never told you that story? You're kidding me. Yeah, it's
You
a very
always tell
involved
me
story. You regret
you're not
asking me now.
you're not psychic. You don't see any or feel anything, but your first experience was
I
seeing and
don't.
feeling stuff. Your first experience was seeing and feeling something.
No,
You
that
can't
was
say that you don't.
standing there. It was standing there. It was standing
Right.
there. It wasn't like a figment or like a vision. It was physically in the room with me. He
Yeah.
touched me.
Well, that's how it usually
That
works.
wasn't like in my mind. No, it wasn't in
It's
my
not in your
mind.
mind. It's not in your mind when you're seeing this stuff. You're seeing it. But
No, it
like
actually happened. Like they
yeah,
were
I know.
standing next to the bed. One was short, one was tall. They looked different. I
Right.
was
And
thinking,
that's
oh,
how it
it's like
works.
Abbott and Costello. That's what I thought at the time. I'm like, okay, I got to try to remember as much as I can. And I'm like, okay, he's shorter, he's bigger, he's fatter. And I was like, oh,
But when
it's
you're
like Abbott
having
and
these
Costello. I'll
experiences,
remember that.
you're describing it exactly how a client would and anyone else that's seen stuff. It's there. It's not like in your mind or anything. It's you're seeing it. They're right there. It's real. So you're describing exactly how. So we're saying you don't see or feel anything. Yeah, you do. You literally
No, but
felt
that
the
was
hand
like,
on you.
I don't know. I know. I consider it different though. I do. I consider that different because it was like actually physically in the room with me. It's not
Right.
something like, it's not like a voice that people hear, but they don't hear it with their ears. It's not like that because I heard with my ears, I saw with my eyes, it touched me. I felt the hand, the third dimension of the hand, like I felt it underneath.
I think you may be confusing how some people, like how me and Roseanne try to explain it to people. Where yeah, I'm seeing something. It's definitely I should be able to go over and touch it, and it's three-dimensional and solid. But when I'm explaining it to people, I'm saying like it's in my line of sight and in my vision, but it's almost like it's that next layer over, not a projection, but it's like being overlaid on top. I don't mean it's like this smoky figure that doesn't exist, that's like a hologram being projected. I mean that it's it's almost like whatever vibrational level or dimension or what area it comes from, however you want to phrase it, it's now crossed into ours.
Mhm.
So it is just as solid as and real as anything else. But the way to explain that for me is to say like it's that from that I don't know, the other side kind of, however you want to describe that. To me, vibrational levels make sense. Like suddenly it's vibrated enough where now it's crossing into our physical existence, and then it vibrates out
Mhm.
and goes back into out of our physical existence. But when it's in our physical existence, it's in our physical existence. That's how when things get, touched, piece of equipment getting touched, they're physically touching it. Or even if it's something like a REM pod where they have to be there to set it off, there has to be something capacitive, something energy, like a hand, something giving off some kind of energy to actually get close to that, antenna
Right.
or to proximity sensor to set it off. It can't be done without physically being there. So all this stuff is physical.
Well, I mean, if it can be just energy though.
Well, it can be just energy, but what I think when people like people who are doing like a psychic reading or a mediumship reading, where they're connecting to spirits, that may not, that may be more like a phone call, kind of where they're the spirit may not be physically standing right next to them with their hand on their shoulder, but they're able to do that
Right.
long distance phone call between. I guess that's the best way to describe it. So, and maybe it's a video call, so they can see them, but they're not physically in their presence.
Right.
So there is a difference, but it depends on um, the person, the situation. Because I see stuff as 3D dimensional people, solid. But there are times that I've seen and am aware that they're not here with me. I'm seeing just that projection or that phone call, that video call kind of thing, where
Right.
they're not here with me, but I'm getting that information or seeing them, and it is different. So I
But
think
then,
that
so how do you know? So when you see them, you can tell the difference between
if
who's actually in the space and who's
no,
projecting or who's, unusual to that space or
if it's
whatever.
a normal,
You can't tell the difference?
if it's a normal spirit, if they disappear in front of me, then I know they weren't there. Other than that, or if I'm locked in a house, they
Oh,
have
I
no
didn't
way of
know
getting
that.
in, and I look over and there's someone here and there's no way they could have possibly gotten in here. Yeah, I've been down in supermarket
Right.
aisles. I've turned around and I saw somebody there and just turned around and looked over again. And there's no way they could have sprinted to the end of the aisle and gone around the corner. They're just not there.
Right.
I've asked people, I've asked people for help before. I was when I was doing commercial refrigeration, I was underneath a piece of equipment and I just couldn't reach my wrench. I didn't feel like sliding all the way back out. And there was someone walked up. So I said, "Hey, hey, dude, can you hit me that or just kick it over a little bit?" And I asked like 3 times, and I was like, you know, what the, crawled out, and there's no one there.
Yeah.
Instant I came
Right.
out from underneath, just snapped out. I never, all I got to see is as my eyes were going up, I probably got about to thigh high, and the thing was gone. But when I was under there, 100%
Hmm.
solid. I felt like I could have just grabbed its legs. I'm yelling at it to, why aren't you handing me the damn, wrench? You're sitting right there.
Right.
So I can't
Yeah,
tell the
I
difference.
didn't think it was like that. Like I never got in the conversations that we have with people and that I've had with other psychics that I trust, and there are some that I trust, Roseanne, and other people. But, I never got the feeling that it was because everybody always says it's in my mind. They don't
Well,
say like I physically saw it in the room with me. It's always like, oh, it just
it
kind of
is hard.
comes
It
into
is
my
hard to
mind as a
describe.
vision.
It is hard to describe because it's that third eye kind of thing where you are seeing it, but everyone can. I don't always see them like that. There's times I see them,
Right.
or I just feel them, or I sense them enough that I could even describe them physically, but I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing it in like the mind's eye. So there's different ways it's going to manifest for different people, and some people only see it certain ways. I have, I guess, different layers of. I can do the psychic medium stuff. I don't like to. I don't like to talk to spirits. I don't want to communicate back and forth to people like that. I don't like the feeling. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I've done even card
Right.
readings and stuff like that. I don't like the sensation of it. Now going in and looking around a location and looking for spirits that way, where I'm getting stuff where I'm going to visually or see it or hear it or stuff like that, where I'd rather have it communicate that way through the equipment, and it can say stuff to me too, but I'm not having that. And there's no message to pass along. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm
Right.
not. I don't really have, even when I'm doing EVP attempts. I rarely ask, "Well, do you have something you'd like to tell us, or would you like to give a message to the people who live here?" I really don't ask those questions because I don't like that kind of interaction. That makes me now.
Right.
I have discernment, which means I'm going to see the bad stuff. And ironically, as weird as it sounds, seeing something that's demonic or super negative in a house is less disturbing to me compared to doing a mediumship thing, having that conversation back and forth with the spirit. The mediumship thing
Right.
makes me feel more uncomfortable, and I don't know why. Whether it's just the energy, I've never gotten used to it, you know. But there's layers. Some people just focus on the mediumship and the psychic ability, which is when we've talked about having like psychic
Right.
houses and stuff. You don't know who they're reading when they go in. Are they reading a spirit that's next door? Are they reading a spirit that isn't actually the spirit manifesting in the house? They may be in the house, but they're not the spirits that the people are interacting with. So that kind of stuff,
Right.
as opposed to someone who strictly just sees like I do, sees and reacts to physical stuff. Well, yeah, there's all different layers.
Mhm.
I guess I just got dumped on a bunch of them, but I always try to explain it so people can understand it, and sometimes it just doesn't it doesn't come through. And with me and Roseanne have talked about it before too, about like that, seeing it in that third eye kind of frame. It, it's not always like that. And it really is. It's hard to describe, but it is
Mhm.
when you're seeing it with the third eye. It's there. It's physically there. It's like if I take my glasses off, yeah, I'm blind as a bat. There may be somebody in the room with me. If they're not moving, I'm not seeing them, but they're physically there.
Right.
But when I focus and I put my glasses on, all of a sudden I can see them now, crystal clear. That's what the third eye can do
Mhm.
sometimes, where it's almost like giving you that extra focus. It's your psychic's pair of glasses to go on. Now you're seeing what
Right.
clearly that was there all along. You couldn't make it out before. You were walking by, you were
I
oblivious.
never saw anything. That there's only like one thing I saw. I was talking to Amy and we were at Batstow, and I saw something in a tree.
But you
But
did see
that's
your
the
first
only
encounter.
thing.
No, your first encounter was seeing
I
something.
don't. Uh,
You just said you described
if you
them,
say
Abbott and
so.
Costello. Remember, short and
Yeah,
tall and
that's
short.
them.
Well, then you saw them because you were able to say how tall they were.
No, I did see them, but I
Well,
saw
there you,
them with my eyes. Because
with your
if
eyes,
it was with my
right?
mind's eye, I would have still been able to see them without having my eyes open, right?
No, not necessarily. Let's put it this way: most people aren't going to know the difference. They're going to be seeing something that shouldn't be there. They're not going to know whether it's your third eye. Most people don't even know what the third eye is or understand any of that. All they know is they're
Right,
seeing something that shouldn't be
right,
there. So I don't know if I notice the difference because I have different ways that I see them. If I only had one way, I wouldn't know the difference either. I would just say, okay, I'm seeing them; they're physically there. So whether you're using
right.
your psychic third eye glasses or they were physically, you were seeing them in your line of vision physically, it really doesn't matter. You did see stuff. I remember the first investigation I worked with you, I walked into a room and you were talking to a spirit in the corner. Like, you had to know there was a spirit in the corner to be talking to it. Otherwise, you're batshit crazy talking to an empty corner. But you seemed like you were asking specific questions to somebody standing in the corner. So you had to have seen something. So I think
No,
you
I
you
didn't.
dismiss
You
it.
didn't see anything there.
Would you feel something then?
No, I mean that's how I always investigated before, like just asking questions randomly
No,
throughout the
you weren't.
house,
This It wasn't random. You were directly in a corner communicating with something when I walked in that
Yeah,
room. Because I said something to you. It's like you're
I think it
psychic
was
as the
something in the
rock.
closet.
Was it a closet?
I don't know. I don't
There was a
remember
closet
now.
over there. I
I'm
remember walking
picturing
in the
like a
bedroom, turning to the
I'm
left.
picturing like a bookcase built into the wall kind of
Yeah,
thing. That's
there
what I
was.
would like.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I remember. See, I can remember some things.
There you go. Um,
There you go. Yeah. And what about
I
you? How did you get in the paranormal?
that takes like 3 shows to go through. Reader's Digest version. I started seeing stuff when I was 3 years old. Um, and my parents dismissed it, told me to shut up and go back to bed, and the spirit was still there in the room, and I saw it in that house for another 25 years. So I had 25 years of almost constant things going on, including a few years of something, that I now understand would be considered demonic. Um,
Oh, okay.
so I had a lot of on the job training growing up that way. And when I
Do you
started the
know why they were
Shadowland,
there?
no, the good spirits, I don't know why they were there. I never um they never communicated with me, or at least the one that would talk, I couldn't make out what it was saying. It sounded like it was talking gibberish. So maybe it was talking another
Uh-huh.
language for all I know, and that's why I wasn't picking it up. But also, it was a
Right.
young child, so maybe it was just talking gibberish too. So all the adult
Right.
spirits there never tried to communicate with me. They were just kind of there. Um, the bad stuff I kind of accidentally invited in myself, because I thought I
Uh,
had chased away the little kid. Someone told me, well, maybe that they needed help, so I invited it back. But the way I invited it back, opened a door, so anything that's
right.
around, came in. And at the time,
Now
I
had
was very
permission.
much right, and I was very much interested in becoming a priest, because I was probably like freshman year of high school, somewhere around there. I went and talked to the parish priest about going, finding out about going to seminary, instead of college. And so it was, ironically, that's the time that I did this, allowing this thing to come back in. But I went opening the door, and now
Mhm.
also I had put a target on myself, someone showing interest
Right.
in, the priesthood. So that just stapled a bullseye to me of my own doing. So,
Right.
and that came back to bite me years and years later. That thing never went away. It just waited for another time to attack and play pile on when I was in my 30s. So
Right.
nothing but time. So I started the Shadow
Right.
website, which was the very first paranormal website on the internet, back in 1994. And I was always into the like Bigfoot and Loch Ness monster and UFOs and ghosts, but the ghost
Yeah,
was like
me
personal.
too.
Yeah, the ghost was like a personal thing to me, though. I had questions,
Right.
and I had no idea,
Mhm.
other than reading ghost stories, that anybody else in the world was having any kind of experiences like I was. All I knew
Well,
that
people don't talk about it, especially
right.
then. I mean, we used to watch what was it? The Leonard Nimoy one, Beyond.
Oh, in
I
search of.
can't. Oh, In Search of, yes.
Yeah,
That was my favorite show at that time because they talked about things like that no one else ever talked about
right.
because it was like, it was coming from a star, like a TV star. So they're
And,
like, okay, we'll allow it, and they had interesting stories and, I
and
thought
that's
it
kind
was
of
very
where we
well
got our
done.
that's where we got our topics for the Shadowlands. But the ghost thing
Right.
I put up my own personal story, and it's still up there. It's the shadowlands.net. You can go check it out. Um, and I put it up there to put myself out there, being vulnerable, and ask, does anyone else want to share? And when we finally stopped updating um, regularly, there was like 16,000 stories up there of people telling their experiences. And we probably didn't post twice as many as that, because some of them were
I
just,
know. I sent you mine. You didn't post that either. I remember that.
well,
I
it
will
was only
remember that always.
Tina did
You
most of the
owe me for
reading
that
of
one.
the stories. So she would go through them. If there was stuff that just, the story wasn't, whether it wasn't coherent or it was too, um, maybe like things that weren't, PG, that too violent, too sexual, stuff like that, we would leave those out because
Right,
we didn't want to edit any of them. And then
right,
other ones, the way the person was telling the story, they weren't doing a service to themselves telling the story. They were making
right.
themselves sound, you know, crazy, when I don't think they are
Right.
crazy. It was just the way that they were telling it. So we didn't put that stuff up either, just as not so we didn't do a disservice to the person. And for the
Right.
most part, the people had the option of putting their name, their handle, because back then you didn't use your real name. You could put your email address if you wanted to get feedback from other people. Um, and we made it like a safe place for people to share their stories. So that's
Right.
where I got involved in learning more about what I was experiencing, and then getting someone that helped with answer the questions I couldn't because I was new to this. I was the client pretty much.
And
When we had someone
so
that looked
who was that?
at,
Who was your first helper?
he was out of New York. He had a group in New York, but he also worked with Ed and Lorraine Warren and kind of helped them with
Okay.
cases down in the New York area. One of their
Okay.
investigators in that area. So I didn't know
Right.
that. I knew them from seeing stuff like on Search of or reading books, the Amityville horror kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And most of the people I knew were like Hans Holzer and those kind of books from the library. That was most of the stuff you would see.
God, I have a huge Hans Holder book. I mean, it's like this thick. It's got to be 4 inches thick and
Yeah,
like 8 by 10 maybe. It's just massive, and it's just very small print stories, story after story after story,
yeah.
and
It's
then
like a
like
compilation of a bunch
his
of his books.
interpretation. It is. It is. It's probably all of them. It's amazing. I used to read it like all the time. I got like halfway through, I think, before like whatever time caught up with me, and like I
Right.
just lost my reading spot. I'm trying to pick up reading again now. So I took out something entertaining, and I've gotten like a page and a half in 3 days. So
I got a stack
maybe
of
not.
books that I would need to
Um,
catch up on. I don't stop buying them, but it's harder to sit down and get all the way through them.
I
Um,
stopped. I buy very selectively now, because if I end up with like a shelf full of books that I'm not going to read, like, then I'm a dumbass. So I like donated all the ones I'm not going to read. The ones that I still have are, ones that I'd really like to read one day. The Howard Stern book was another very good book. That was a good read. If you ever get a chance to read that, it's a really good book,
which
because he
one
goes
is
through his
the first one?
interviews. I guess I didn't know he did too. So I guess it was the first one I knew he put out.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of. That's
I
going
used to
back
be
a
a
ways
huge
too.
Howard Stern fan,
Yeah, I did.
big
I
Howard
I
Stern.
started as someone who wasn't a fan, but it used to keep me awake driving home in the morning, and then you just get caught up
Right.
in it.
Yep. In the
So
drama.
so
But
this
like
guy,
here years later, he's God.
he's doing serious stuff almost. His shows are kind of legitimate interviews.
Yeah, now it is. Yeah,
So
now it is.
so back to this guy who was helping me. He answered questions about what I
Yeah.
experienced in my house, including the bad stuff. He asked me to start working with him, and I said I'm not going to any houses. I don't want any part of that stuff. So I was
Right.
basically like a client counselor, talking to people, showing that I had bad stuff happen to me, but here I am. You can do this too. Kind of like guidance counselor, pep talker, kind of thing.
Right.
Um, and then I wanted stuff to do, maybe you know, dab my feet into the water a little bit. So I joined a local group in Philadelphia, and that didn't uh, that didn't work out. So I hooked up with the people from that were forming South Jersey Ghost Research. Basically, they were already like an existing group of people going all the way back to 1955. We just changed the name of the group, and it was like a combination of like three different groups merging together with Hildred's group, which is the one from 1955.
Right.
And didn't want to do anything bad. Just wanted to go out and help people because I knew what it was like to be that little kid in the bed, terrified to turn on the light and that kind of stuff. Grew up always afraid.
That's the part I
And
like best too. I like that part best.
that's the rewarding part. Yeah. And then somehow
Yeah.
I found my way to the place that I did not want to go at all, which was into the demonology stuff. Slowly by working with other people,
Right.
having people, help us out with cases, like, John Zaffis, Adam Bly, and a lot of other lower level people that worked with the Warrens or, were demonologists that, helped us
Right.
with stuff. And we were kind of like we were the roadies carrying the stuff in, helping them videotaping the stuff and
Right.
everything. And then there's just one time that I use in my class that the video where you can actually like kind of see me put down the camera, and then I'm on camera holding a lady holding a crucifix
Right.
in her hand and helping doing blessings with her and stuff. And that wasn't planned. At the moment, I was thinking like, what the hell am I doing here, and how did I get here? And it had been
Right.
years of training, but training that didn't realize I was doing because I would never have agreed to do it consciously. I
Right.
was being I was
Yeah.
being
It was
brought
just a
into
path
it.
you ended up following.
Right. I was on that path. I didn't realize I was on that path till you suddenly
Right.
you get to the big leagues, and then you go, oh shit, how the hell did I get?
Right.
And at that
Well, when
point,
did you go to seminary?
that was when I had my first heart attack, my six bypasses. Um, I decided then, because I didn't die, that I wanted to check
Right.
something off the list. And so
That's a good one.
I started, and it was an online one, but I have to tell you that when you go to like community college, or I guess regular college too, I guess it's what, 15 or 9 hours. I think it's 9 hours or 12 hours a week classroom time for each class. So that's how much time you'd be doing, including your homework and spending physical time in class. With this online,
Right.
you had reading assignments and homework assignments that took that exact amount of time. And there were quizzes that were peer reviewed. You had to post the quiz. Well, almost all of it wasn't multiple choice. It was all essays. You had to write out,
Right.
and you posted it in a group with people who have already completed the seminary and the
That's a good
instructors.
way to do it. I like that.
So now they would ask you questions, and you had to defend your answers. And then the final
Right.
exam for each one was the same thing. You had to come up. They didn't let you pick. They picked the topic. You had to now write your thoughts on it, and it could be agreeing, disagreeing, anything at all, your point of view. But you had to be able to defend that and
Right.
get your point across. And I thought that was challenging. I'd love give me an essay test any day over true and false, and multiple choice, because I can just write the shit out.
The only reason, well, the only reason they're good if true and false is because you can guess. If it's an
Right.
essay, you can just like talk into a circle, and they're going to figure that out by the time they're done reading
I never
that
ran
you
into that
actually
problem
didn't answer the question.
because normally I just don't shut up. I can just keep writing and writing and writing. So it never bothered me to go and continue and keep expounding on my thought and going deeper and deeper and
Yeah.
deeper into it. So it took me 3 years though to complete, because
Right.
I would only take like maybe two or three classes at a time, and they would take, I think the quickest you could get through was like 6 months. A lot of them were like 9 months. So I
Wow.
was taking so there
Wow.
were times where I was overlapping and taking like 4 at a time, but I was also, um I wasn't back to work yet,
Right.
I owned the store. I had employees working for me, so wasn't doing any day-to-day or physical kind of stuff. I was a lot of just sitting around, behind a desk and doing stuff like that, so I had plenty of reading time, and that's what I would do.
Right.
I would do that, so I had
What
that
did you read?
the,
I'm
what
just wondering because when um when I started doing the bad stuff with you, like I started trying to read. Catholic books because although I was baptized Protestant, I really don't know what I am, honestly. I don't know enough about the other little nuances with all the offshoots from the Catholic Church, like the
Mhm.
Christian offshoots. So I don't really know what to say that I am at this point. So I figured if I learn more about the Catholic Church, I'll know what views I agree with, what I don't agree with, what I think, what
But
I don't think.
that's just you
And
basing it off of one religion to bounce off of when you figure there's so
right.
many.
Well, I just want to learn it all about that one and then go to the next one, and see contrasts and things like that. But I don't know what to read. I tried to read the catechism and I wanted to like shoot myself.
I
It was
am
terrible trying to read
I
that.
would
Oh
buy
my
books.
God.
I would buy books that were related to like spiritual warfare or deliverance or exorcisms and stuff by all different, clergy from all different, I never even really looked to see what they were. Honestly, because to me it's all
Right.
the same God. There's just rules and different things for different sects or denominations of the
Right.
Christianity. But so you're going to get different points of view. Some of them are to me were like really over the top, where it had me like gagging from stuff being forced down my throat. That was just you know it was a very
Right.
nice fancy story,
Too
but not
much.
but way too
Yeah.
much. But even in those books, I would continue reading because if I walked away with one sentence that I could possibly ever put in my pocket and bring up later and remember and use it for towards something, then it was good. It wasn't a waste of time.
Right.
So that's how I would tell everyone when they're reading. You don't have to read and like it. Read everything so you're getting all different points of view. So then at least when you're going through and doing stuff, like kind of like the way when I'm doing like the minor exorcisms in the house, I'm not following any specific set pattern necessarily. I mean, I have one that the triple
Right.
black which I go to a lot, but
Right.
I'll freestyle it too. You guys will see me staying there, opening up different books and pulling out stuff from different areas because I'm just going with the moment because no case is the same, no situation's the same. So I don't think you can go in there with one
Right.
set ritual and it's going to work every time. I don't think it works like that. There's no cookie cutter approach. And I think
Right.
that's one of the reasons why some people are unsuccessful because they're not willing to adapt to that particular situation and change up
Right.
to be changed up. And if something's working, try that. And I think that's what makes kind of like what makes us unique, is doing stuff that's, you know, um, I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff done, but I mean, I've seen us get very, very creative about, I remember putting the fan on on the a central, central air system, just the fan, and letting the smoke from the incense blow through and get sucked up into the whole system and blow through the entire house. But it also got
That was
every
in John's
crevice,
basement.
including I've done it more than one place, but that one in particular because we felt that it seemed like they were hiding somewhere, and the ductwork was where we kept coming back to. So
Right.
why don't we can
Right.
smudge the whole house, including inside the house, the ductwork, the inside inner workings of it.
It
We can
was a
do it
good
all.
thought. I loved
And
it.
that thinking outside the box, I'm pretty sure you're not going to find that in any book that you're going to read. It was just one of those
No,
things that, like, at the moment,
but
that
I love
just
it.
made
But
total
I love
sense.
it.
And I think that's just how you kind of have to be flexible enough and not just stuck into here's my book, here's the ritual I'm doing A to Z, and that's it. While it does a lot of
Right.
those rituals do work, I think that the success rate could potentially be higher if those rituals aren't working. It gets changed up a little bit or something a little something else added to it.
Right. Well, I was
And then
going to
I
say, so like you say all the time, it's not necessarily different demonic entities that you're running into, you know. So they've been around like from the beginning, probably, or however they were produced in the cosmos. But I think if they've interacted enough people who have tried to exercise them, then it's very possible that after a while, like, they've found their own tricks, and if you're using the same material over and over and over again, like you said, they got nothing but time. So they just have to wait until somebody missteps and says the wrong thing and gives them an opening, or, you know, somebody comes up with something a little different and they go like, "Oh shit, I didn't know they were going to do this," like, "Uh-oh."
And
Like that's how I see it. Like always change it up.
that's why I tell people your personal protections, change it up too,
Yeah.
even how you protect your house. Think of them as like a stalker. They're watching you. They sit in their car across the
Yeah.
street. They know what time you get up in the morning, what time you leave for work, what time you come home, what time the lights in
Creepy.
the bedroom go off. They know your whole pattern, right? So now they know when to come in. They know when the best time it is to attack and come. If you're doing different stuff and you're always changing it up, it's harder to
Right.
predict. It's more difficult, not impossible, but it makes it more difficult for something to come at you. And that's how I've always kind of approached it. And even the philosophy we use of the type of protections, overlaying with like crystals and religious stuff, and
Right.
visualizations, all the different stuff um, that some people would frown upon, because if you're going all religious using then crystals, that a lot of different denominations would see that as you know using something of the devil, or something that's
Right.
any
Exactly.
different level. And my answer was, in the very first book I wrote, I addressed that the positive energy for haunted homes was, who made the crystals to begin with? If you believe God made everything and he made the heavens and the earth, he made them too. And I don't think he was bored that day and decided, let me make a million different crystals with different properties just for, giggles. There was probably a reason why they were made. Just like plants, we plants and animals, we find medicinal properties in some of the weirdest places, like snake venom, things like that. There was a reason for all that stuff.
Right.
So why can't crystals be the same way? And we know they have properties such as vibrations, and vibrations can physically affect you. So there's something to it. So wearing some crystals, using religious beliefs, prayers, objects, visualizations, anything at all, and just layer it all together. And you know, the
Right.
more stuff you have around you, the harder it's going to be to come at you. Not impossible. There is no
Right.
bulletproof vest, but you know, I think too many people that are in this field don't do any kind of protection at all, and maybe they've gotten away with
I think that's crazy.
luck, basically. But you have to.
Yeah.
There's going to come a time where you're going to be calling us, and you don't. If you're a paranormal investigator, you really don't want like me and you walking through their front door, because that's definitely not like
Yeah.
not like a good. It's not a good sign that what's going on there is anything that they want to experience. It's
Well,
probably very,
I can't
very.
tell you how many people that I've seen, like the applicants, and we hire them, not even just like our team now, but in the past, the other teams that I've been affiliated with, and people come in and say, "Oh, well, I don't need protections," until, it's usually the first or second case, maybe the third that they're on, that something just goes right for them because they're watching. Like they know why we're going there and they're trying to see where we have a chink in our armor. And guess what, Billy Bob? It's you. You're the chink in the armor. You don't use protections where, I'm layered up. Like, I have crystals and I have holy oil and I have, jewelry. Plus, I have my visualizations that I do and the prayers that I say, and he's going in with nothing. Guess
Even when we
what?
do,
He's
I
getting
mean,
it.
when we do, if we're going to do like a blessing or anything like that, where I usually take I have a variety of different oils that most of them have the exorcism blessing and stuff on it. But They may be from different saints, different blessings, or touched to different relics and things like that. I have a whole bunch of them. I don't use the same one. When I get there, I it's got to read the room. What one is am I drawn to? And that's the one because I'll rub it on my hands. So that way I feel like there's a barrier between, me and whatever I'm touching, a spiritual barrier there. But I'm never going in always using the same thing. I kind of
Right.
I wait for guidance to kind of like, literally guide me to what I need to use, and listen to that. And there's many times afterwards when you look at the situation of the case, if you would have known what was going to happen and would have had to pick something, the thing that you did pick is what you would have used. And that happens even with
Right.
religious objects, crystals, visualizations, any of that stuff. When you're going with your intuition and letting and going with that guidance, a lot of times you are preparing yourself without overthinking it. And I think the people who overthink it,
Right.
sometimes they get caught in that cookie cutter approach, and they think, well, this worked last time, I'm going to go with it. This is my lucky oil, whatever the thing is. I ring, you know, I got to turn my Saint Benedict ring 3 times backwards, otherwise it doesn't work. It's like like superstition stuff, and that's not going to get you
Right.
anywhere. Maybe one time that
Yeah.
worked,
I
and
have problems with that. I switch it up because I know it's the right thing to do, but I don't feel like there's a guidance if there is. Like I just don't, you know, I don't have confidence in myself that I have that uh intuition, or I don't sense any kind of communication along those lines. I look at them and they all look the same to me. They all feel the same to me. I just
do you
like,
always wear your
just pick
seatbelt
grab one.
when you get in your car? Do you always wear your
Yes.
seatbelt? All right, I don't,
Mhm.
and that has a lot to do with when I was when I was a cop. We usually didn't wear them because they got caught up on everything,
You
trying to
gotta
get out of
jump
the car
out.
fast. So
Yeah.
we would clip it behind us and sit in it. So,
Right.
but there's times that I get in the car and all of a sudden I put my seatbelt on. I don't even question it. If that little bit of that sudden urge or little whisper, that little nudge is there, that's the guidance. It's not always trumpets and signs and everything saying. It's just that little, you know driving home. Maybe I don't usually drive home this way, but for some reason I'm
Mhm.
turning right here and going the long way home. Makes no
Right.
sense. I don't question it. I just do it because maybe it's my imagination, but maybe it's not. Look at that plane crash in Philly. I
Right.
mean, we were literally there
Right.
at that intersection at that Ross. We were there. It had to be like 3 minutes before. Had we decided
Right.
to stop in, say, like the Dunkin' Donuts there, because we were going to get coffee, went to Wawa instead. If we went to,
Mhm.
or even to that diner, we eat that diner right there all the time. Had we just made one little decision that, like I said, we were getting coffee, Dunkin' Donuts was literally right there, and it's not right there and right
Right.
now. That took the brunt of the hit.
Yeah.
We
Yeah, it's been
probably still would have
evaporated
been
probably.
we would have been in the drive-through line at the time. So and that
Right.
was something that we didn't even consciously think about. Something in our minds together said, let's drive by Dunkin' Donuts and go to another place to get coffee, which doesn't necessarily make sense because we were right there, but I don't overthink it. We just did what we did.
Right.
And that's how I kind of like to go about things with that guidance. I don't sit there and there are times that I ask for it, preparing for a case
Right.
or something. I will sit down, but I'm not waiting necessarily for that, something huge to happen where I get it. Um, I tell you guys sometimes I'm waiting for the phone to ring. Sometimes the phone
Right.
doesn't,
Right. Exactly.
but sometimes, yeah, I remember one case in particular, all those papers fell out of my binder. All my prayers and
I
everything, they're
remember that.
all organized. They all fell on the floor, and as I'm picking them up, they're all like now mixed up. As I'm picking them up, I'm looking at them, I'm going, not bad. Okay, I can see going right into this one right after that.
I
And
remember that.
I came up with like 8 pages that were from 8 different things that fell in order right on top of each other. And I was going with that because when I'm reading it, I'm like, this really sounds like a good idea, a good game plan. And for it to randomly happen like that, maybe it was random, maybe it wasn't.
Maybe
I
it
don't
was.
care. I'm
Right.
going to go with that. See, that's what when I'm talking about like the guidance kind
Right.
of thing. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that little bit.
No, me
Yeah.
too. I mean, I get nothing. Absolutely nothing. I get I was like in the trunk of my car and I'm trying to decide what to bring in because I have like, a plethora of options. And I'm just like, what am I going to take? And I'm like, Amy, what am I going to take? And then I'm like, what would Dave take? And I'm like, no, no, no. Like, I got to do this myself. Like, what am I going to take? And I just ended up just picking, whatever.
Mm-hmm. And
It
sometimes
works.
that
It
picking
works. I
is
hope it
it
works.
works. We got like 4 minutes
Right.
left, but I wanted to Wade from Nespers down here, and he made a good comment about even protect. Let me see if it's big enough to put up. Yeah, there we
Oh,
go.
shoot. I didn't know the top. Oh,
So
I'm
even when you're
sorry,
dealing with
guys. I didn't even
com-
realize.
computer stuff, I really don't teach it or tell people, but if you I can't I got all the weird stuff on the computer, the background stuff, you won't be able to see it, but um just like right in front of me, there's my Saint Dymphna medal right here. There's a line of Saint Benedict, all blessed and exercised. There's a Saint Benedict statue, Our Lady of Guadalupe statue, relic medals right here. Saint Michael and Saint I think that's Teresa or icons over here, all around my computer, my monitor, my keyboard, and underneath to protect from the stuff that's coming through the computer and the electronics.
Right.
I make sure all that stuff is protected too, because right now we're on a portal and people are sending stuff through back and forth. And that's a great way for stuff to
Right.
come through people. Just read Facebook. Just go online and read Facebook. And you want to see all the negativity and the
Ugh.
you want to see the demonic at work. Go look at Paranormal Facebook, and there you go. It's just people nonsense attacking each other for no reason, saying stuff that if they were in a room together talking, none of them would have
They, they
the
would never
guts to
say.
say it back and forth, right? Not when it was like we had to back when we grew up, we had to talk on the phone or talk face to face. That was it. There was no beer muscles behind a computer, keyboard and in the computer. So, and that just enables people to, do some of that negative work and take some people who are going to could be potentially helping people, helping clients, helping locations raise money, things like
Yep.
that, and tear that down. And the people who are doing it don't see it that way. They feel vindicated by doing it, like they're slaying some dragon. And
It's a waste
you
of
know,
time.
people, you need to protect yourself,
It really
not just
is.
investigations when it should be a thing throughout the day, and
Daily.
think of all the ways stuff can get to you, and the computer and our phones are two big ways, and you really need to be aware of that. I mean, your phone's in your
That's
hip
one of the
pocket
things we
all the
talk
time.
about in training, right? Change it
Hmm.
every day. Like whatever you do to protect yourself, do it, but change it every day. Don't be predictable. Don't
Maybe that's a topic
do
of a show right
repetition on
there.
Monday. I do that. Yeah.
That sounds like a good topic for a show right there for going over the types of protections, but also the modernized versions of what you can do, like for your computer, for your phone. You know, thank you, Wade. Thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah.
all right. Well, next week, I don't know who the guest is going to be yet because we haven't set that up. We haven't had good luck with people getting sick or me getting sick or whatever. So we'll figure it out. We'll have it up on the Facebook, and we'll also
It'll
have it
be
up.
interesting.
So right now we're flying by the seat of our pants. But even if me and Pat just have to talk for an hour, we showed we can easily do that with no problem.
Oh,
So
I could talk forever.
all right,
But
everybody. So
everybody
it's
I
eight
know is like,
o'clock.
yes, you can.
There's another show
Take
coming on
care.
right behind us. So we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye bye.